Hey everybody, and welcome to another episode of Ask the Chairman. This is a board game related Q&A session where you can ask me anything about board games. As usual, thank you to everybody who submitted questions on the last video, and if you want to keep the series going, then please do ask a question in the comments below and I'll answer it next time. Now, this episode is mostly going to be focused around one question, but I will answer the other ones that were asked, of course. But I think one of them is quite relevant for some drama that's going on in the board game space at the moment. Before I get started on the questions, I want to give a quick shout out to the show's sponsor, KIENDA.co.uk, who are my go-to online retailer. And if you use the link in the show notes or the QR code, then you can get 5% off your first order. Okay, so let's go to the first question, and this is where I'm going to focus most of my energy on in this video. And this is from Shorty Dancer, and it is a great question. He has asked, how do I feel about some content creators and their relationship with publishers? Now, it's quite a broad question and a difficult question to answer, so I'm going to go on a bit of a tangent, but hopefully you'll get the message that I'm trying to get across here. So, more and more, as these kind of board game controversies come into light about certain creators and their kind of practices, I'm always surprised, and maybe this is my naivety, I don't know, I'm surprised about how many board game content creators or board game YouTubers do this not because they love it, or how few of them do it because they love it. It seems to me like maybe that's the initial kind of allure of doing board game YouTube. But very quickly, as they pick up a bit of traction, they try some games out, maybe they get sent a review copy or two, they quickly try to convert their channel into a money-making machine, you know. They invest in a camera and some nice recording equipment, and all of a sudden they feel like they're entitled to a living, you know, making everything about money, being more than comfortable to shill for games that they clearly have no interest in. And how many of these YouTubers do you feel like, are they really telling me the truth? Because to be honest, there's very few and far between, in my opinion. It seems like there's always the same faces kind of advocating the new Kickstarter game. And to be honest, although I don't watch a ton of their videos, so maybe I am slightly, you know, skewed in this view. I don't know their identity. I don't know what games they like. I don't know what they don't like, because they seem to just like everything. And when you don't have an identity and you don't stand for anything, then how the hell can I trust any single word you say? They've clearly been in a close relationship with certain publisher groups or certain designers, and as long as they are lining their pockets, sending them new games with a bit of a cash tip on top, then they're more than happy to say how great their game is. Everybody follows suit and everybody buys those games. Now, I personally am not comfortable doing that. My integrity is not for sale. I don't care how much money you give me, I'll tell the truth regardless. So, but you know, it seems to me that maybe I am definitely the minority in that. And you know, although my channel's been going for quite some time, I've not really got into bed with any publishers at all. And if I have, it's been very small ones where they know the kind of games I like, and therefore they're pretty comfortable in saying that if I give this game to Dan, he's probably going to give it a positive review because he liked my other game that was so similar to it. So in particular, I think of a company like Megacorpin, who publish Awkward Guests. I've always got on really well with those guys. They've always been super nice. They've sent me, obviously, well, I bought the original Awkward Guests, but then because I reviewed that so positively, they sent me Scandalo and then the head-to-head version of Awkward Guests 2. And I liked all those games because they are so similar to Awkward Guests. Any other big publisher, I've not really had much to do with at all, actually. Even though my tastes are pretty transparent, you know, I like my kind of minimalistic Euro-style games and card games. I don't have that many designers of the kind of tried and tested games that I like, or the publishers who publish those games reach out to me as a safe bet to kind of advocate their games. So, for example, I think of game companies like, you know, Bitewing Games or Queen Games with the Steffenfeld City series or City Collection. You know, you're pretty sure that I'm going to like those games because I'm such a mark for Steffenfeld and Reiner Knizia games, but I've never had a single copy sent to me from those publishers. So it's a strange one, really. I'm not quite sure what the strategy is that these sometimes even smaller channels than mine, and my channel was very small. I don't know what path they go down to get to these relationships with these publishers. Do they just badger them? Do they keep sending them emails? Maybe they meet them more at these conventions and they build up a relationship that way by trying to sell themselves. I'm not going to do that. It's not my personality. It's not what I'm about. And to be honest, I do this because I love it. Whether I have the channel or not, I'll be doing what I'm doing and playing all these games. And it's completely baffling to me how channels who are sometimes even smaller than mine are more than comfortable asking for ridiculous amounts of money. I see it as quite an audacious amount of money to ask for just to cover that game on their channel, maybe a playthrough or a preview or a review. They'll say, I'm more than happy to take this money from this small publisher, from a designer who's probably never published a game before, and they'd happily take that money, line their pockets and release some kind of substandard video just shilling it and saying how great the game is, whether they agreed or not, because of course they want that repeated custom. Now, I've been in, I think to be a true, not great, but a decent YouTuber, you need to have your integrity intact, and you need to be strong enough and, dare I say it, have the balls to be honest, because it can be awkward. I've had so many, I say so many, obviously very small fry in terms of comparing it to other YouTube channels, but I've had quite a lot of review copies sent to me over the years from, small game studios or very, first time publishers. And I've had to say to them that I don't like the game. It's not for me. I'll probably share very brief thoughts about it on the channel and then move on. I don't know how somebody can say this game isn't for me. Yeah, I'm going to make a video and tell my audience how great it is. Again, what identity do you have? And what does your word mean if you do that? And you're more than happy to take money to share your opinion. To me, that is just alien. I would never do it. And to be completely transparent, the only thing that I normally ask for, and I don't even expect this, is if the, say, campaign is successful, then just send me a production copy in your own time and hopefully I can enjoy it some more. That's all I ask for, really. I've never asked for money. I personally feel it's really cheeky to ask for money. And I think a lot of the YouTubers think, and their argument is that, well, I'm doing a service for you, I'm using my equipment, I'm using my time. Yeah, that's a fair argument, but nobody's asked you to do it. And let's be honest, this isn't hard work. It's very easy. Just turn a camera on and talk about games, which you are supposed to like. You're supposed to be doing this because you enjoy it and, helping the community in a way, because I personally am more than happy to showcase a game that I really enjoy. I don't expect any compensation, and I'm kind of grateful that you consider me as a platform to showcase your game. And again, if I also happen to love the game and can tell you guys about it, that's all the better. So again, maybe my mentality is unaligned with what everybody else is, and maybe that's me being silly, because I'm sure I've maybe left a lot of money on the table that I could have grabbed, which I just didn't feel comfortable taking. So yeah, that's kind of where I'm sitting on this. I did write a few talking points down. So yeah, again, I never want to be like a puppet to a publisher. I never want to just give them be confident enough to give me a game and know for a fact that I'll like it because they're going to continue giving me more games. I would be honest. I'd say, I don't like this game, and if that means that I'm not going to get any future copies, then so be it. Again, it seems like I am in the minority for doing that. I'd much rather kind of build my channel on a foundation of honesty and integrity. So therefore, if you know that I am advocating a game, which I don't do that many, to be honest. I play a ton of games, and if you ever look behind me, most of the games are games that have been out for a long time. There aren't actually that many newer games that I truly love. So, I want to really showcase the best of the best games and at least be honest with myself. I don't expect anything from this. I do this because I enjoy it. I don't really expect anything back from it. So yeah, I do it for me, and I don't really care about anybody else apart from the people who have invested their time in watching me. So yeah, you have to be strong enough to be honest. You have to have those awkward conversations at times with these designers and publishers saying that it's not for me. And I actually think there's a lot of value in that as well. And I think maybe this is an underrated part of the YouTube space, is that negative reviews can actually be very helpful to these publishers, especially if that channel has an identity. If you send me the latest, I don't know, come on game with tons of miniatures and dice rolling and all these rules that conflict with each other, you know for sure I'm not going to like that. If you gave it to me and I said I'm not going to like it, I don't like it for this reason, but I can objectively say that this works well for these kind of gamers, then those kind of gamers will watch my channel, know that their tastes don't align with mine, and know that they'll probably like it. It doesn't have to be personal at all. So again, I think negative reviews you don't have to take them to heart. Everyone has different tastes. You're not going to get even five people together who agree exactly on the kind of games they like. Somebody's going to like a game that you don't like, and vice versa. So that's it really. That's all I kind of wanted to say. I do think it's perfectly fine for you to build up a relationship with publishers, but you do have to make it very clear that you're going to be honest on your channel. You're going to tell the truth about it, and I think eventually that's going to come to light. How many times can you say or be that kind of slimy salesman and just try to sell you the snake oil time and time again before you are caught out? Again, you are building your channel on a house of cards. It's going to fall down, it's going to bite you in the ass, and eventually you're going to lose all credibility. Again, my channel is very small, but I know for a fact that every one of my subscribers knows what I'm saying is true, or at least is true to me, and I'm not telling any lies. So, even though I'm a smaller channel, my actual engagement and the kind of community and the feedback I have is much higher than some of these bigger channels, because again, they don't really stand for anything and you can't really believe a word they say. So when they say something's great, is it actually great, or do they actually mean it or not? So yeah, I just think that you can work with publishers. You just need to be honest. You need to be transparent. If that costs you future games, going down the line, then so be it. Are you willing to sell your integrity? Well, apparently so. I'm sure my channel will be 10 times bigger at least if I was constantly getting in the new hotness and telling everybody how great it was, kind of scalping for those early copies, and just going on and on and on about games that I don't really care for, rather than talking about games that nobody cares about, such as Ingenious or Chin. Who cares about those games? I do, and I know the bulk of people and the bulk of subscribers don't. But again, why are you doing this for? This shouldn't be for monetarily gains. It should be because you enjoy it. Yes, I know that it can bleed into the money side of things. I'll be transparent. I do make a very small amount of money from adverts, and I even don't put them in the middle of my videos because I think it ruins it for you guys. So I just do it before and after my videos. I make a tiny amount on Patreon, which again I'm eternally grateful for because I don't expect anything. And of course I am sponsored by KIENDA, who are a retailer. So I'm not signed to any particular publisher or designer. They just give me a bit of money to buy new games that I can showcase on the channel. So I don't need to. I can be completely honest without hurting anybody's feelings, or at least jeopardizing any relationships. I don't have any conflict of interest because I work with KIENDA. I've had a ton of games from them that I've just said are rubbish. So yeah. You just need to be honest. To me, I don't know. I think maybe I'm a good judge of character. I can see right through these channels and see you're not being genuine. You're just a fraud. But I don't know. Maybe a lot of people don't because again they have 10 times the amount of subscribers that I do. But hey, that's a bit of a rant there. Hopefully that gets to answer your question, shorty dancer. I think the time of this question was quite relevant considering some of the controversies that have happened over the last year or so. Hey, I love board gaming. Again, if I had the channel, if I didn't have the channel, I would still be buying and playing tons of board games because I love it. I love trying new games. Even if they're bad, I like trying them because it's a new experience. So yeah, maybe I'm the mug. But thank you so much for the question. Sam has asked, does luck affect my preferences for games? Yes and no. It depends what type of game that it is, of course. So if it's a quick, rapid throwaway, push your luck game, then I'm all for luck. I don't care at all. A ton of my favourite games have a big luck factor. Thinking of games like Rapido, also known as Escape. Big luck factor, and I love it. I love that part of the luck in those games. or even some cheesier games like Age of War or things like that, or Flea Market. They have a huge luck factor, very swingy, but because they're so short and almost silly, then I enjoy them nonetheless. If you are putting a big Euro game in front of me, and maybe the winning decision comes down to the flip of a card, then I'm not going to enjoy that quite so much. So it depends on the circumstances. Yes, it will affect my enjoyment of a game if it's a bigger game with more autonomy, a more complex experience. But in shorter games where you go into the game knowing the luck and you can weigh up those probabilities, then I've got no issue with luck at all. He's also asked, which luckless games do I recommend? And there are quite a few of them, especially considering I've been getting into more abstract strategy games as of late. So I would highly recommend the entire GIF series, or the GIF project, especially games like Yinch, games like Tsar, games like Devon and Link. They're fantastic luckless designs. Also, games like Through the Desert, a classic Knizia game with no luck to my knowledge. Games like Katarenga. Katarenga is a really cool kind of chess variant. And also, I suppose you could lean into games like Hansa Teutonica, more Eurocentric games, but I don't think there's any luck involved in Hansa Teutonica, so it kind of crosses that line of being a Euro as well as an abstract strategy game. So yeah, just a few examples for you there, and to be honest, I've got a good suggestion for you. My upcoming game, Thalamus, does not have any luck involved at all, so keep an eye out for any updates on Thalamus, and you can follow it on the Board Game Geek page, which I'll leave a link in the show notes. He's also asked, are there any games that I wanted to like but did not, and why? Yes, there are quite a few of these, and I'm going to be a little bit reserved in answering your question because I do have a top 10 list brewing, which I'm hoping to release soon. So there will be a couple of spoilers here, but I will still plan to release that top 10 video soon. And most of these games are due to maybe the idea or the concept of the game sounding appealing to me, or even just the theme or setting. So Lawyer Up was a big one because I love that idea of being the prosecution or the defense player and trying to sway the jury into your favor. Great untapped potential there, but unfortunately the gameplay on this kind of tug-of-war style game I thought was personally very lackluster, very swingy, a bit of a clunky mess of a game in my opinion. Dark Ages was one that I was kind of salivating for really, because it was my dream setting is like the medieval Dark Ages. I love those kind of themes, siege engines and castles, kings and queens. That's my forte. This one had that theme. It had some area control, some engine buildings, built on the foundation of like Euro mechanisms. I thought this was like my dream game. Sadly, in practice, it was very slow, a real kind of plodding pace to it, which I didn't enjoy, sadly. I wanted to love it so much, but I didn't. And another couple that I thought I wanted to love them because I was just like almost assuming that I'd like them because of the design pedigree or maybe the publishing companies. So Alma Mater was one from the Italian designers. I thought that game was pretty missed, to be honest. Autobahn, mechanically just an absolute cluster in my opinion. Very long, drawn out, but I like the company, I like the designer, but the game was just a massive miss for me. Or even games like from Stefan Feld, like Castles of Tuscany, left me wanting for more. So, always anticipate any Stefan Feld game coming out, and that one was just like, meh, it's fine, I'd rather just play Castles of Burgundy. So just a few suggestions for you there, Sam, but thank you very much for the questions. Mr. Jomino has asked, do I miss playing more involved board games? And this is because on my most recent Hitting the Table video, I had revisited a lot of my favourite Euros, kind of more involved games, like the Stefan Feld games, like Bonfire, games like... I played games like Oracle of Delphi more recently, games like Bora Bora. So yeah, those will always be my favourite games. That's what really makes me love board gaming, is those well-integrated mechanisms, those tough decisions, and that strategic thinking. I love that style of board game. So do I miss playing them? I mean, yes and no. I mean, I play them semi-regularly, not as much as I did, mainly because it's more difficult for me to get them to the table because of time restraints and things like that. And because, of course, I'm playing new stuff all the time. But they're never going anywhere. You know, for me, my enjoyment of Euros, maybe not enjoyment of Euros, but maybe my spotlighting of Euros and playing them more intensely is somewhat cyclical. So I seem to go through phases of playing a ton of fast filler games, and then I'll slightly burn out on that and play the more heavier involved games. I'll slightly burn out on that, and then I'll go back to the lighter games. So it'll always go round and round for me. I'm never gonna not play those games and not enjoy those games. Yes, they are harder for me to get to the table to learn and to play, but the great ones will always stay in my collection because they are just that, they're great. But thank you for the question. Mike has asked, if I had to start my collection again, what would be my first 3 purchases? And I'm going to assume that I'll have to do with these 3 games for quite some time. You know, they'll have to satisfy me for a while. And I did narrow it down to 5 games. I think 2 of them are definites. Number 1 would be Capital Lux 2, Generations. Kind of a really diverse card game that's based on the blackjack system. But there are unique powers, there are different setups. You never really play the same game twice. It's fast, it's exciting, there are good decisions, it scales well. So yeah, a game for all occasions there. Love Capital Lux 2. Also, War Chest is one that I'd definitely add to that top 2. Again, the strategic thinking, the depth of the gameplay, the sheer variety of the different military units you can play with. Always feels like you're playing a different game. I just love War Chest amongst there with my very favourite games. And the other 3 I narrowed it down to were a game like Ra would be a good suggestion. A game like Rumble Nation is a game that I'll never turn down. Always love playing that one. And also Acropolis is one that has consistently hit the table since I've got this one. And I just love the process of playing Acropolis. So definitely Capital Lux 2, definitely War Chest, and let's say Ra. Oh, I'm really torn between Ra and Rumble Nation, to be honest. But let's go with Ra. So there we go. Capital Lux 2, War Chest, and Ra. He's asked a non-board game related question, which is, what is my favourite beverage? My favourite drink is Pepsi Max Cherry. I love Pepsi Max Cherry. I go through a ton of the stuff, probably more than I should do, but I love it. And his final question is, what are my thoughts on Sentinels of the Multiverse? I've never played the game. I don't think I know anybody with the game in my kind of immediate friendship group. So it's probably not going to happen anytime soon. I don't know much about the game mechanisms or intricacies. I must say it doesn't overly appeal to me because I'm somewhat over the superhero thing, and cooperative games generally don't work for me. There aren't that many co-op games that I truly love. I have recently made a top 10 co-op games list, and you'll probably find from looking at that list that my taste in co-op games tends to skew towards lighter, more party games, because I like to take ownership of my own kind of board state when I'm playing more involved games. But I'd go into it with an open mind. I'd certainly be up for playing it, and I know there are some people who really advocate Sentinels of the Multiverse, such as Luke from the Broken Meeple. I know he loves Sentinels, so I'd love to play it one day, and who knows, it could be great. But thank you for the questions. And the final bunch of questions are from Till. So thank you as always, Till. And I'm sorry I can't really answer a lot of these questions because I haven't played a lot of these games. So what are my thoughts on Radlands? So Radlands, I think I've only played it once or twice, and it was quite some time ago. I don't really remember, again, the intricacies of the game. I remember thinking it was okay. I didn't love it, hence why I found it somewhat unmemorable. I remember really loving the artwork on it. I think maybe it was a bit restrictive for me if I have to kind of pluck a thought out of thin air. So yeah, sorry I can't go into much more detail, but I think I ended up rating it about 5 out of 10, so I probably couldn't have liked it that much. What are my thoughts on Castell? Castell is another game I've not played, but it was a game that has a somewhat of a cult following to my observation. And I would love to give this one a play, actually. So this one I always thought was It looked like a solid Euro, kind of about building these towers of people. I kind of like organising things and building stuff, so I think I'd probably like that part of the game. I'd have slight concerns about the replayability of the game, but please do correct me on that. But if I saw this one, for a fair price, I would pick it up, and I'd love to give this one a try. What are my thoughts on Paris, the City of Lights? Unfortunately, another game that I've not played. I am aware of this one. I'm sure it's a 2-player only kind of Polyomino style game. Again, I like Polyominoes. Maybe a bit oversaturated in terms of how many there are out there. But I'd definitely give it a go. Again, if I saw it out there for a fair price, I'd probably pick it up. But I can't say how much I like it because I've not played it. And the next two questions, and again, another game that I can't really comment on. He says, am I familiar with a game called The Legacy of the Maharaja, or a game called Crazy Chickens? Unfortunately, I'm not familiar with either of those, but I will look into them, and if they appeal to me, I'll look at getting them for the channel. So there we go. And the final question from Till is, why do I prefer my farm shop over Space Base, when of course they are so similar to one another? If you're not familiar with the similarities of the crossovers with Space Base and My Farm Shop, they're both kind of dice rolling resource gathering games where you're rolling dice and then collecting resources based on an ever improving engine. Now, a bit like Radlands, I've not played Space Base in many, many years. I think I've only played it 2 or 3 times. And I do recall each of those games taking way longer than I would have liked it to. I also thought that there wasn't enough mitigation in terms of activating these spots that you wanted. And pretty much the card's not doing anything terribly interesting either. I know it's a very popular game, and I have only played the base game, and I've heard on more than one account that the expansions make it much better. And I'll take that as true, but I've not played it, and I probably won't play it anytime soon again, or replay it anytime soon. And My Farm Shop is a game in my collection. It's Rudiger Dawn's kind of take on that game mechanism. I really like the drafting system, or the selection system in My Farm Shop, where you're using 1 die to pick your next card to improve your engine, and the other 2 to activate a particular spot on your board. And you can even combine them together by placing the card you've just drafted on the spot that you're going to activate right now. I also liked the capacity you have in My Farm Shop, where you can only store a certain amount of goods at any time, meaning that you need to perfectly balance your kind of input and output in terms of gathering resources and converting those resources into points. I like the constantly changing engine and the mitigation tools as well, because you do have a lot more mitigation in My Farm Shop, where you can collect these burlap sacks, which will let you change the dice value. So all these little touches for me make it a better game. I think it's faster. I think the decisions are better. Maybe visually it's not quite up to par, but I just like it in every way. But I am a big sucker for Rudiger Dawn games. I think he's a brilliant designer. So hopefully that answers your question, and unfortunately I couldn't answer the other ones in any more detail, but thank you as always for the questions. And that concludes the video. Again, thank you very much to everybody who submitted these questions, and if you want to keep the series going, then please do answer a question, ask a question below, and I'll be sure to get to it next time. As always, thank you for tuning in. If you have enjoyed the video, please be sure to hit like and subscribe to the channel, and check out my other content too. Also check out my new game, THALAMUS, and hopefully I'll get copies of those for sale relatively soon, so you can monitor the progress of that on the Board Game Geek page. And for everybody else, I'll see you next time on Chairman of the Board. Bye-bye.